Today's lesson is Don't Be a Goldfish. Hi, everybody. My name is Roger.
And my name is Helen.
And today we've got an article with an interesting title here. Don't be a goldfish. What the heck is that supposed to mean? I don't want to be a goldfish anyway, living in ponds and waiting for people to throw breadcrumbs at me. I'd rather be a human, thank you very much. But what does this exactly mean?
I don't know. A goldfish, first of all, is that small orange fish, like you said, that often lives in ponds or even in aquariums at home, so they're kept in even smaller spaces as pets. So, of course, I wouldn't want to be a goldfish.
Right, but the reason we're talking about goldfish in today's article is because they have really short attention span, and that seems to be happening to people these days, which we'll get into in just a couple of seconds. So let's find out what this topic is all about. Let's listen to the first part, and then we'll come back to break it down for you.
Don't be a goldfish. The attention span of an average goldfish is said to be 9 seconds. According to a recent study, the human attention span is now a mere 8 seconds, 1 second shorter than that of a goldfish. Indeed, many people nowadays find it hard to read a whole book, complete an assignment on time, or even pay close attention when someone is speaking to them. And one major factor in the shrinking of our attention spans appears to be the effect that our increasingly digitalized lives have on our brains.
大家好，第一部分我们可以看到单字 mere， 它是形容词，指的是仅仅或是只不过。例如 Tony spent a mere hour studying for his exam. Tony 只花了1个小时准备考试。或者 Crossing the finish line a mere second before his competitor, the cyclist won the race. 那位自行车骑士只比他的竞争对手早1秒冲过终点线，赢得了比赛。另外，这个字的字尾加上 ly 就会变成副词 merely， 像是 According to this philosopher, our actions merely mirror the society in which we are raised. 根据这位哲学家的说法，我们的行为只是反映出我们成长时所处的社会。接下来我们看到单字 nowadays， 它是副词，意思是现今或是如今。举例来说 Many sporting events are streamed live nowadays. 现今许多体育赛事都是网络现场直播。又或者说 Many people nowadays are enslaved by modern technology. 现今许多人都被现代科技奴役了。再来我们看到名词 assignment， 指的是指派的作业任务或是分配指派。例如 There are now just 2 days to spare until the deadline for the assignment. 距离作业的期限现在只剩下2天了。或是 The new challenging assignment energized the team to do their best work yet. 新的困难任务激励了那个团队空前的全力以赴。
The attention span of an average goldfish is said to be 9 seconds. So attention span here refers to the length of time that you can pay attention to something without getting distracted or without being bored or thinking about something else. It's basically the amount of time that you can focus on something without thinking about something else. And in the case of the goldfish, the attention span is quite short. It's only 9 seconds. It can only focus on something for 9 seconds before it turns its attention to another thing.
Right. I don't think that refers to memory so much. It just means you can only pay attention to one thing, at least in the case of a goldfish, for only 9 seconds. But according to a recent study, the human attention span is now a mere 8 seconds, 1 second shorter than that of a goldfish. My goodness, it seems that goldfish have longer attention spans than humans do nowadays. How the heck did that happen? But that's according to a recent study or according to some recent research. And we're talking about the human attention span. It's now only 8 seconds or a mere 8 seconds. So mere here just means a small amount of something. It's most often used with the indefinite article a mere 8 seconds. It took me a mere 2 hours to drive from Taipei to Taichung, for example.
Yes, or you could also say, don't listen to what he says. It's only his opinion. It's a mere opinion. It's not a fact.
Exactly. Okay, so again, the human attention span has gotten shorter than that of the average goldfish. That is very insulting to human beings. What are we going to do about it? Indeed, many people nowadays find it hard to read a whole book, complete an assignment on time, or even pay close attention when someone is speaking to them. This is true indeed. I often try to read books in my free time, but it's only a matter of time before I stop and think about something. Oh, I need to look something up on my phone. And of course, I get distracted from my reading. I pull out my phone, I go on the internet and look for information, and then I remind myself, oh, I was supposed to be reading a book. So yes, this does affect me as well as it does, I guess, to other people. People find it hard to read a book nowadays. So nowadays, of course, means in modern times at the current time.
Yes, you can say nowadays it's much easier to find information on the internet, but there are also many drawbacks to using the internet. Now, aside from having trouble finishing a whole book or reading a whole book, people also have trouble completing an assignment on time. An assignment is work that you have to do as part of your job or work that you have to do as a student for school. So I could say that the teacher gave us an assignment to complete at home or homework.
Exactly, okay, and the teacher might assign you to do that, and you have difficulty completing an assignment because you get distracted and you have a short attention span. And one major factor in the shrinking of our attention spans appears to be the effect that our increasingly digitalized lives have on our brains. So whenever we talk about electronic devices like smartphones and tablet computers and our personal computers, e-books or whatever, these are all digital devices, and we've got a verb here to digitalize something, to make things digital or to use a lot of devices a lot of times. And so, yes, our increasingly digitalized lives, or our lives which depend so much on those digital devices, has had an effect on our brains. We're losing our ability to have a longer attention span because we're swiping on our phones so much.
That's right. So sometimes we're not even able to follow a person's conversation or discourse because we will be distracted by an incoming email or text message or something that's going on in our smartphones. So here, again, the word digitalize refers to the act of converting information or data to digital form. So you could take a photo, for instance, and if you scan that photo and you turn it into an electronic file, you're digitalizing that photo.
Exactly. Of course, when I was younger, I used a film camera, a Nikon FM2. But later on, of course, I got a digital camera, and that's the kind of cameras most people use these days. But that's another topic. It is related, however, to digitalizing things. And yes, this has had an effect on our brains and on our attention spans. Let's move on now to the next part of our lesson. We will listen to it first.
We can get almost any piece of information we need online through our phones and computers, and the information often comes in easily digestible forms, such as infographics, key takeaways, and short videos. As a result, the internet itself seems to be weakening our attention spans. So, what can we do about it?
We can get almost any piece of information we need online through our phones and computers, and the information often comes in easily digestible forms such as infographics, key takeaways, and short videos. So the heart of the problem lies in the fact that most of the information that we get on a daily basis comes from our devices. So we might look up the bus schedule, or we might look up a piece of information and we just need to Google it. And a lot of this information comes in digestible forms. So digestible comes from the word to digest, which means originally to break down food. If food food is digestible, it means that it is easily broken down and changed into substances that your body needs. Now, when we talk about information that's digestible, it means that this information is easy to understand or break down. We don't need to think a lot about this information in order to understand it. In other words, in the case of website information, that information might be presented in very simplistic terms. It might be presented in photos or in large, bright letters, but it doesn't go very deep into the matter.
Right. Supposedly in the past, people got their information from newspapers or from listening to the radio. And when you got information that way, you really needed to pay attention. Of course, reading the newspaper is quite difficult sometimes because you have to read so much stuff. There are no pictures. It's just the words. It might be kind of boring to people. But hey, nowadays we've got infographics, which is information presented to us with nice colorful pictures and maybe little animations and things like that. And also we have these things called key takeaways.
So a takeaway is an important piece of information that you should remember. Now, if you are at a meeting or you have just given a presentation, you might want to summarize all of the points that were discussed at the meeting or at the presentation in bullet points or in a summary, and these would be the key takeaways of the meeting or presentation, the main information that you should go away with after you have listened to the presentation or attended the meeting. Now, when it comes to key takeaways on the internet, a lot of the articles begin with key takeaways, which are short summaries in bullet point form that tells you what this article is about. So many people just read the key takeaways without actually reading the article itself.
We just kind of get some basic information and then we move on. We also can have short videos like on TikTok or whatever, and we can watch them. Yes, for entertainment, but also to get information. And they make things easily understandable for us as if we're all in first grade or something like that. And as a result, the internet itself seems to be weakening our attention spans. So yes, indeed, we can get lots of information from the internet, but at the same time, it is weakening our ability to pay attention to anything for very long. Yes, indeed, sometimes I observe people on the train looking at their phones, and a lot of times their thumbs are just constantly moving, going through information, so they're only looking at something for a couple of seconds and then moving on to the next thing. No wonder our attention spans are getting shorter and shorter. So, what can we do about it? If we're concerned about this, what can be done? Let's try to talk about that right now by moving on to the third and final part.
Limiting our use of digital devices may sound like a good solution, but it would be like putting a Band-Aid on a gaping wound. To regain control of our minds, we need to band together and stand up to the companies that create the digital content that's wrecking our attention. For example, we could force social media companies to change their business models, whose goal is to keep us scrolling without thinking. By working together, we can regain our precious attention.
第三部分我们看到名词 device， 它的意思是装置或是设备。我们可以说 The eye doctor had several devices in his office. 眼科医师的办公室里有好几具仪器。也可以说In the past few decades, computers evolved from machines that occupied several rooms to devices that fit in one's bag. 在过去几十年间，电脑从占据好几个房间的机器，演变成可收进人们袋子里的装置。最后，我们看到单字 content， 它是名词，指的是内容、含量或是成分。例如 You need to create an account to have access to the contents of this website. 你需要设立一组账号来使用这个网站的内容。再举一个例子 The security guard examined the contents inside my purse. 警卫检查了我皮包里面的物品。另外，这个字也可以当作形容词，念作 content， 意思是满足的。像是 Larry was content with his simple life on the farm. Larry 对他在农场的简单生活很满意。又或者是 Pam is usually content with just a salad for lunch. Pam 通常午餐只吃一份沙拉就心满意足了。
So what can we do to prevent our attention spans from becoming even weaker? Well, limiting our use of digital devices may sound like a good solution, but it would be like putting a Band-Aid on a gaping wound. So many people would probably say, as their first reaction, why not just stop using the internet so often? Why not put away your smartphone and just live life without your digital devices for a while or for longer periods of time?
Exactly. So it does sound like it's pretty easy there to limit our use of digital devices, but most people are addicted to those devices, and we find ourselves in kind of boring situations where we're waiting for a bus, we're riding the bus, or we're sitting on the toilet. We certainly want to take out our phones and start playing with them. So yes, indeed, limiting our use of digital devices is easier said than done, and we do talk about it being compared to putting a Band-Aid on a gaping wound. Now, here we've got the word Band-Aid, and that's an American term. It refers to something that you put on your skin if you've cut yourself, and it will protect the wound or the damaged area from getting more damage. But that's only an American term. I believe in England and other countries they say plasters, so be aware of that difference here. But Band-Aids, of course, are very small, and they wouldn't be useful on a gaping wound. If something's gaping, it's really big and it's really wide, it's a serious injury.
Right. So limiting our use of digital devices may sound like a good solution, but it actually isn't. And when we talk about digital devices, we are, of course, talking about smartphones, iPads, and laptop computers, all of those things that we often use. The word digital here refers to anything that relates to computers or the internet. For instance, you can talk about digital marketing, which is something that is taught in colleges and universities these days. And digital marketing refers to marketing online, marketing through websites and through the internet. And device, of course, is any machine or a piece of equipment that has a particular function. And today we often think of devices as being smartphones and computers, but you could also say that a very simple tool is a device. A lock, for instance, is a device for keeping houses safe or keeping your belongings safe. That's a very simple device.
Indeed. So, yes, indeed, we could limit our digital devices, but that's just putting a Band-Aid on a big wound. To regain control of our minds, we need to band together and stand up to the companies that create the digital content that's wrecking our attention. So we need to work together. We need to band together. We need to unite and organize together. And we need to stand up to these companies that seem to be turning us all into zombies for their own purposes. So here we've got the phrase to stand up to something or someone. That means you resist them, you fight against them. You might want to stand up to oppression. If your government turns into a dictatorship, you might stand up to the dictator or something like that. And in this particular case, we want to tell the companies that, hey, you shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't be making us a bunch of zombies.
Yes, and when you band together, it means you come together as a group. And often when you want to resolve a situation or you want to be able to come to a conclusion or get what you want, you have to work together as a group and say, we all demand this thing. It's not just me who wants it.
Okay, so of course we need to stand up to those companies that create this digital content. Content is just the information that is contained in a website or in your phone. And all that digital content, all that digital information is wrecking our attention. We now have an attention span shorter than that of a goldfish. That is very insulting. It's very embarrassing. How can we face other creatures if we can't think longer than a goldfish? For example, we could force social media companies companies to change their business models, whose goal is to keep us scrolling without thinking. So again, we could talk to those social media companies, or we could force them to change their business models. You guys got to stop doing that. Your business models or your way of doing business is to keep us addicted to our phones and to keep us scrolling without thinking. So here we've got the word scrolling, which means we go from the top to the bottom. Most people do that by flicking their thumbs on the screen of their smartphone. We also call that swiping.
Yes, so if we work together, by working together in this way, we can regain our precious attention. In other words, if we work together to make these companies change their business models and say, we don't want you to advertise in this way or to present information in such a way that keeps us looking for more information and not concentrating enough on a particular piece of information, then we're not going to use your services anymore, or we're not going to buy your goods anymore unless you change the way you do your business.
Hopefully they will change and we will regain our previous attention spans. That brings us to the end of our explanation. Here comes Hanny.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文第一部分有一个句子写到，现今许多人觉得很难读完一整本书啊，准时完成指派作业，或者是甚至在别人和他说话时保持专注。好，文中它是用到 find it hard to do something 的方式去表达觉得很难怎么样怎么样。那它使用到的句型是 find it加上受词补语，再加上不定词 to be。 好，那在了解这个句型之前，我们要先介绍的是 find 受词 to be 加上受词补语，或者是可以把 to be 省略， find受词加受词补语，去表达说认为觉得某人或某事物怎么样怎么样。好，那么 find 在这边就是表达认为觉得，那我们的受词补语常常会用名词或形容词，中间的 to be 要不要用都可以。那我们就常常会看到 find somebody or something 后面直接接形容词或名词的结构。举例来说， They found him a very decent man， 也可以说 They found him to be a very decent man， 他们觉得他是个很正直的人。 The students found the story to be interesting， 或者是 The students found the story interesting， 学生们觉得这个故事很有趣。好，那接着如果这个句型当中的受词是要用不定词 to be， 这时候我们会改用 it 来代替受词的位置，然后再把不定词移到句尾，那么句型就变成 find it受词补语再加不定词 to be。 举例来说， Matt found it hard to fit in at school。 Matt 认为适应学校生活很困难。好，另外文中他用到名词 assignment 来表达指派作业，它其实是来自动词 assign。 那我们来学它的字首字根。首先 sign 这个字根呢，它有标记啊、指示、符号、签署的意思。那么在 assign 这个字当中，它的字首 as 是来自 ad 表示朝向，那么字根 sign 表示标记。那同学们就可以试着想象，当你拿着一张单子，那针对每个人标记各自要分配的数量或工作，朝向他们去分配工作那种感觉，就很容易联想到 assign 它有指派啊、分配的意思。我们顺便补充几个有相同字根的单字。第一个 signify， 它的字根 sign 表示标示，那么后面是 ify 动词字尾。当我们把某事物特别标出来，就是为了标示出它的重要性或是说明它的含义。用这样的方式可以联想到 signify， 它可以表达意味着、表示、表明或者是示意的意思。好，第二个补充是 design， 它的字首 de 表示 out 往外， sign 表示 mark 标记。那同学们小时候有没有玩过那种依照数字顺序把这个点点连线起来，连成一个图案呢？当我们把所标记的东西把它绘制出来，把它标记出来、画出来，那也许可以联想到 design 它有设计、构思或是计划的意思咯。第三个补充的是 resign， 它的字首 re 表示相反， sign 表示标记， 那什么叫相反标记呢？其实这个字是有典故的，它原本在拉丁文里面是指说在账簿上面画反记号来核销原先的注记，那么后来就引申出辞职的意思咯。好，以上是今天重点整理，我们回顾今天的单字吧。
Mere. The apartment is located at a mere 2-minute walk from the closest grocery store. Nowadays. People don't use payphones nowadays as much as they used to. Assignment. Bella's homework assignment took her 2 hours to complete. Digital. With computer chips now being used in all sorts of products, this is truly the digital age. Device. The music studio had a variety of recording devices to capture performances with. Content. It is difficult for websites to get people to pay for the content the websites provide. Wreck. Our plans to go hiking were wrecked by the sudden storm.
Discussion starter starts now!
Here's our discussion starter for today. The question is, do you agree with the idea that digital content is wrecking our attention spans? Why or why not?
Well, I don't agree with the idea that digital content is wrecking our attention spans. Rather, I think that our attention spans is something that we can control ourselves. So if we made the effort to read more books, or if information was presented in a different way in schools, then children can actually maintain their attention spans.
Well, I do agree with the idea that digital content is wrecking our attention spans, but perhaps this is a good thing. These devices are inevitable. They were going to be invented someday anyway, and companies are going to create their content in the way they have for a long time. So we just have to adjust to these changes. A short human attention span is just the way things are going to be from now on.
Well, everyone, today's article has come to an end, and I sure hope you enjoy reading along with us. I am Helen.
I am Roger.
See you next time.